Tom Campbell here. If you find something of significant value in our videos, please consider supporting their production through our Patreon account or through a one-time donation. The links are in the description below. Thank you and enjoy the video.
Okay, Marla, you're next.
Great. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Marla.
I'm so excited about this potential stuff. And going back into the sort of the dream conversation that we were just having, I want to know what's happening here because I'm dropping into someone else's body in a dream. And I know I'm Marla and I know I'm having this dream, but I'm dropping into someone else's body. So I'm actually experiencing whatever they're feeling, but I'm knowing that I'm in it. So am I a player of a player? What am I doing? So, I mean, I'm getting information, but am I checking things out for the next life? Am I just having an opportunity to experience what it might be like, not being me, like I need a vacation, I'm trying to get some language around this.
Okay. So when you say you're doing this in a dream, I don't think you really don't mean in a dream, do you? You mean you're just doing this. You will find yourself that, in a meditation or?
No. Actually, and when I'm working, when I go into databases, I do that about databases, but that's while I'm awake. No, this is actually in a dream.
So you're asleep.
I'm asleep.
Do you know the person whose body you're in?
No.
Oh, it's just any symbolic person.
Yes.
Just
And
another human.
Another human, correct. Yeah.
Do you know anything about that human?
No.
Male, female,
Oh,
big,
yes.
small, old, young?
Well, I know exactly who I am when I'm in that body, meaning I can feel my body and I'm not me, Marla, I'm somebody else.
Right.
And I know what different sex I am. I know what I look like. I know how I feel. I know where I'm living. I go from scene to scene, interacting with people. And then something will happen where I will laugh as Marla, like, oh, no. And then I'll get pulled right out. Where I do that little bit of judgment of what this other person is experiencing. And they're having an experience that they have sort of a judgment about it. And I'm laughing about it. So it will pull me right out. So what is that?
Sounds like you're being given a little lesson on getting up close and personal. It sounds like you're getting a little lesson that the system is giving you to understand better what people are like inside, and how they feel and how they are. We see everybody from our viewpoint. We don't get to see people from their own viewpoint very often. And in that failure to see people from their own viewpoint is where most of our problems with people comes from. That's where most of our issues with other people are, is that we're only looking at them from our own viewpoint. So you're giving these I take it as it's not always the same person, or is it always?
No, it's never the same
different
person.
Yes.
And I don't have Marla's issues in the tissues.
Right.
I get to experience them, and they don't have the same pathology that I do. Mm-hmm. They have other things. So I get to a break from myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just an experience that's a good experience for you to see what it's like to be somebody else, and to not only see it like that, but to feel it, to live it, to be a part of it. And once you've done that enough, you'll find that you will actually be able to do that while you're awake.
Got it.
So, but first, you do it this way because this is less stressful and a little easier. It doesn't freak you out, a few other things. Whereas if you did that just from an awake state, like you do your chatting with dead people or getting data out of databases, then it might be a little hard to make that transition right away. You might be freaked out by it. So this way you get some experience you see what it's like to be somebody else. That will create a little more empathy and a little more caring, because you can appreciate the differences. And then you will probably sometime in the near future, probably in the next few months to a year, learn to do that from an awake state, where you can get in and kind of hitch a ride with somebody and see what they see, smell what they smell, taste what they taste, and have all the issues that other person has, and know what it is like to be that person. In other words, the old proverb, you get to walk a mile in their shoes.
Right.
Actually.
Well, good, because I didn't want to think it was just I'm checking out other bodies for my next potential. I'm done yet.
No, it's not that.
Okay.
It's typically you get things that you are getting, you're getting ready for things that are on your, on your lesson plan.
Okay.
So when stuff like that happens, think about it and employ it, get as much as you can of that information, what's it like to be them, not just what is it like to, walk to the park, but what's it like to be them and their thinking and their thoughts and their feelings and their dysfunction and all of that stuff, to get to really connect in that way. And I suspect, like I say, several months to a year or so, you will probably start experiencing that from the awake state rather than from the sleep state. So that's what's going on. You're being taught in a class.
And I get to travel, and I get to have things I've never had before. So it's a great break. So thank you so much, Tom.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a big eye opener. You won't see people the same way afterwards. You won't see people the same way. But it won't go on forever either. You'll learn to do it. You'll learn to do it from the awake state. And then after you practice it some and you learn the lessons you need to learn from it, it'll go away. Just because, not that it doesn't go away in a sense that you can't, it just goes away in a sense that you don't need it anymore because you've learned the kind of things you need to learn from it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Marla. I guess you can have your cake and eat it too, right? All right, Jessica, go ahead.
Sorry, that came around rather fast. Hello again. I've got a question to ask Tom that I've not been able to ask anybody before, and you'll understand why when I say what it is. I just want to give a little bit of background first, that even when I was very, very young, like 2, 3, 4 years old, I was very aware that I wasn't living in quite the same reality as other people, and certainly not as my family. So I was seeing things, that other people weren't seeing, or I was seeing overlays of realities. And it was, to me, it was sort of normal, but a little bit confusing when they were saying to me, "Oh, what are you talking about? Don't be so stupid," like I was some kind of a nut job. And I felt very odd and didn't fit in. Then as time went on, and I always felt very out of place here, but as time went on, when I was about 14, I had this experience, and it was mad, really. It was a game we used to play at school. We used to make each other pass out. It was just for the experience of it. And we could do it really easily. You take loads and loads, maybe don't try this at home, folks. You can't do it on your own anyway. You take loads and loads of deep breaths, then you take, whilst you're crouching down, then you take one really deep breath in. Someone grabs you from behind and bang, you just go out like a light. Well, this particular time that I did this, I was in a very, very familiar reality, and I was totally at home there. And it was I knew everybody and everything was brilliant there. And I thought, wow, I'm home. And I had no memory of this reality. And then suddenly, as I got pulled back in, it started to slip away. And this one as I landed in it, was almost like black and white to me in compared to where I'd been. And again, feeling very odd. And the people that were around me said they were really concerned because I was lying there just with my eyes wide open and staring ahead. But a lot of years later, I was about 14 then, about 20 years later, I found myself again in a reality that was totally familiar to me. I knew everybody, everybody knew me, I knew my way around there, and I felt at home there. And then of course I'm back here again. So my question is, why would I have been shown that? Or was it just an accident that I slipped in and sort of saw it anyway? Because I already was aware that there was much more to this reality. Even when I was about 4, I remember looking into my eyes in a mirror and wondering who was staring back at me. There was something quite ancient and old behind those child's eyes. So why would I have had that experience in being in other realities where I felt at home and feeling so out of place here? How would that have been helpful? Or do you think it was just an accident that I had a look at it and saw it?
No, probably was not an accident. Most of these things are not accidents. I would say that you got that particular experience because it showed you a reality that showed you the possibility of a reality where everything was nice. The people were nice. You fit in. You weren't the outsider. You knew everybody. They all knew you. It was a very pleasant, positive space. And that was very contradictory to your experience up to that time. You felt strange. You felt, out on the margin, marginalized. You felt a stranger, like you didn't belong. So you had all those feelings. And I think you were just given this sense of belonging in a space where you fit in and everything was positive, just to give you that experience that that's a possibility. And it's probably a possibility that's in your future. It's probably you looking at a future space where it's all okay, where you do have that kind of positive connection with people and you're not the one out in the margins. So it was showing you, well, it won't always be this way, a little glimpse of the possible future. And then again, I think, and probably at a time when you were feeling particularly ill at ease or particularly, out there by yourself.
Alien.
That would be a time when you'd get this message that says, well, yeah, okay, it's like that now, but there'll be a time when it's going to be like this. So I think it's your probable future that you're going to have that kind of a situation. But
Well, that's
probably
really
not today, probably not tomorrow, but something coming. So I think it's just the system saying, hold on, it's coming. You have some growing up to do. You have some things to learn. And when you get there, it's going to be very pleasant.
Well, it actually describes where I am now, the situation that I'm in now. For all of my weirdness or whatever, I seem to have a lot of people who like me because of it, and I couldn't care less one way or another. Now I couldn't give a rat's backside, and I'm too old to worry about fitting in or not.
Yeah. So I think that's why you got that, just to show you that there's something better coming, because that kind of leaves you with kind of a feeling, well, there's hope. I've been to that nice place. Maybe I'll get back there again. Maybe that'll be me. So it's just giving a little girl hope when she's feeling all alone.
And it's certainly become the case, I have to say, as I've got older, especially these last 5 or 10 years. It's been very much the case in the town where I live. It's I kind of fit in, but then maybe we're all a bit nuts here.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all it was. It was just a little encouragement and a little hope for somebody who needed it at the time.
Yeah, badly. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bethany, please.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Bethany.
I have two questions. The first one is now on all YouTube and everywhere, I want to take what's the take of MBT on, they were saying now today is the Lion's Gate portal energy and this astrology part, that there's activation for people to become better or to increase their consciousness. And I was wondering, because I know it's all data, what MBT has take on, if this is real or just a story been fed for the masses to keep them busy, or if there is real activation, like people will have energy and become more conscious, more awake, or not. So that's
you don't get to become more conscious and more awake just because it's the right time of year, you know.
So it's not real.
No, you're not going to grow up without doing the hard work of growing up. So growing up requires you to change who you are. And that isn't going to happen just because it's 2020, or last time we did this, it was 2012 when we were all going to get a plus up from the great beyond. And I don't know when it was, been times before, but you have to do the work to grow up. So that's not the case, but that doesn't mean that things like I don't know, that doesn't mean that there aren't symbols that are meaningful to people, and it doesn't mean that there isn't a placebo effect that's helpful to people. So there may be some people who will feel much more grown up after that day because they'll feel like they got it, you know, but that's a placebo kind of effect, and it may actually be helpful for that reason. But you don't get a plus up in growth. You don't get a plus up in quality of consciousness just because you happen to be born at the right time and live through the magic day when everybody get a plus up. That's wishful thinking.
That's fantastic, because I didn't feel anything. So, and I always wonder why all these people can feel all these things and emotional, and they can jump and they did this and I have no clue, or I'm not in the same boat. So that's comforting, actually. The second question is, I think with Vanessa, there was in one of the YouTube interview with you, it was about the data stream that we receive as avatars. Like you said, there's 3 sources of it. But when we have a data stream that we want to stop, like it's constant looping in the mind. Even when you're awake, you, like you said, I don't want to be like this, and you release the fear or any negative emotion. But when you're sleeping and still the record is going, so you're not aware of it. But so you said that there is a way we can stop the data stream if we don't like it.
Yes.
How can we do that? I know you said it's hard, but how to do that?
You need to use your intent to close down that data stream. So if you're getting a data stream that's coming from outside of you and it's annoying for some reason, you can just use your intent to not receive that signal. It's like clicking the little X in the upper right-hand box of the website. You don't want that website anymore. It's annoying. So you click the X and it's gone. So it's like that. You can just have an intention that you reject that signal. And that signal then, if it doesn't drop away immediately, it will get weaker and weaker and weaker as you use that intent. So that's the way you do it. Now, if you're the source, not from an outside source, but if you're the source, you can also stop it, but it's a lot harder. It's easier to stop an outside source from coming in that you don't want than it is to stop an inside source coming in that you don't want, but you can still do it. You just need to have that intent, and it'll take longer, but at the same time, if you have the intent, as soon as you get it, you just stop it. Say, no, stop. I don't want that. I reject it, don't want it. And you have to just have that feeling strongly, but not have a fear, well, what if this doesn't work and I keep getting it? See, now if that fear is hanging there in the back of your mind, that's going to keep that cycle going. But if you just have that intent, no fear, just an intention to turn that off, you'll be able to turn it off. But it might take weeks or a month if it's internally created rather than a few days if it's externally created.
I did exactly what you said. And the final conclusion, I separated myself. I said to myself, I'm not the thought and I'm not the emotion. This is the avatar experience here. And as soon as it comes, the thought, because it's just looping and you can see it, I will say this is the experience of the avatar. It's not me. But I noticed that certain data, and sometimes I will know where the data is, outside or inside. Like there's, I don't know if the LCS does that on purpose or part of our code. Like you will have sometimes more dense data coming and you could feel it. And sometimes it's less and you're not agitated with the data, like less interferences. And is that on purpose? And why it's like that the computer program can see that you're separating or you're getting closer to get rid of it. So there's intensifying more data to see, are you gonna buckle or are you gonna stand up and face it? Is this what's going on?
That does happen a lot. The things that you try to change often push back.
Yes.
Fears are like that. You try to get rid of a fear, that fear will rise up and growl and get ugly and try to be as scary as possible. As you get it close to being gotten rid of, it gives a couple of last hurrahs trying to frighten you to stop, to stop getting rid of it. So that does happen, but just persist and it will go away. So you can expect that. Now, also things like looping, if you put your attention on it, it will get much more, you get a whole lot more of it if you give it your attention. Take your attention away from it and it will tend to disappear. So you have to also not focus on it.
Yeah.
You have to focus away from it and then get it to, and then tell it to stop. But as soon as your attention goes to it, oh, it's that thing again, and now your attention's on it, boom, it's bigger than ever because you're looking right at it.
And if you I keep saying to get rid of the fear, and I did quite an amount of work on that, but it seems like there's always a magnet in this avatar, because there isn't an end to this fear. Not that there's something scaring me, just that any negative thoughts, if I can track it back, it comes down to the fear. So I'll keep saying, okay, I don't want to be like that anymore. I don't want to, it's not something specific that is scaring, just that the energy of the fear, if it was sadness, resentment, hate, and whatever it is, and I keep releasing, but there's no end for this well. It just like keep filling, whatever it is. I have no idea what's going on with this.
Keep working on it. Yeah, don't let it dissuade you from working on it. Don't let it make you feel like you're giving up because you're not getting there. Just double down your own effort to get rid of it and realize that it probably will push back, and it'll probably try to get you to quit by letting you know that it's endless and you will never succeed. So you might as well quit. That's just your fear talking.
Okay. Okay, got it. Thank you so much. I did a lot of work on that. So thank you, John. Thank you.
Kim, would you like to go ahead next, please?
Similar to Bethany. Oh yeah. The more I try to be positive and do all the right things, it is something negative getting overwhelming to, I mean, I never have felt that much of a pressure. And it's like, even, I feel like I was possessed. I never feel this way. I've never tried this hard to be happy, to be positive. But at the same time, I feel like exhausted. As soon as I get up, I feel heaviness in the chest, the pain, and sadness. I mean, I feel like, how can I live? And that's how people die. I mean, from morning to night, I try to do everything positive, but this is like coming with a vengeance. And why is that? Is it am I possessed? Is it entity or just the fear talking? I mean,
It's the fear talking. No, you're not possessed. It's not something coming outside to get you. No, that's not the case. Again, as you push the fear away, the fear pushes back. So you just need to keep, push even harder. The fear doesn't want to be gotten rid of. The fear wants to stay. And you just need to resolve that it will go away. You're just not going to be negative. You're not going to deal with negative things. You're not going to think about negative things. Negative things come up. You're not going to process them. You just refuse to deal with them. And the fear will try to get uglier and uglier and uglier to try to get you to stop that. But eventually you will prevail, and it will get less and less and less until it goes away.
why it is fighting with me? I mean,
The fears are hard to let go of. Fears are hard to let go of. They're just difficult. You can make the metaphor that it's like the fear is fighting for its own life. It doesn't want to be gotten rid of. The fear wants to live and continue, but that's just a metaphor. Fears are hard to get rid of because they are attached into us at such a deep level. And we get rid of them, they're at a very deep level. And we get rid of them at this level, and then we kind of succeed there, and then we get rid of them at that level. We kind of succeed there, and then we try to get rid of them at this level. And the deeper the level that we go, the closer we get to the rock bottom source of that fear, the harder and harder it is, the tougher it is. So it's as you push that fear down and access it and deal with it at lower and lower levels, closer to the core of your being, then it pushes back harder and harder. So it seems like the fear is kind of in a struggle with you. It keeps getting meaner as you get rid of it, but it's really that you've gotten rid of it up at this level, and you've gotten rid of it down at this level. And it just, when you get down to the roots, it's hard, because a fear is a fear. It's frightening. It's a scary thing, and it frightens you. It makes you feel insecure. It makes you feel ill at ease. Fear is frightening. That's why we call it fear. So the more you get down to the roots, where you're getting close to grabbing those roots and ripping them up, it gets more and more serious and more difficult. So just keep going. Courage will get you there. Yeah, you and Bethanys seem to have a similar kind of thing. Courage will get you there, and eventually you'll get to the point where you just reach down and grab those roots and rip them out, and it'll be gone. But you have to let go of it. See, that fear is yours. You own it. It's a part of you, and you need to get rid of that part of you. Well, there's some part of you is afraid to get rid of that part of you. That part of you is what keeps you, those fears are there to, for a reason usually. And you're afraid of the fear. And the closer you get to the root, the more frightening it is, the harder it seems to push back. So just push through it. You will get through it. Have confidence. I will get through this. I will be positive. Fear, go away. All right, you're telling me that I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling unsure. I'm lacking confidence. No, I'm going to go do this other thing I want to do because it's a happy thing. I'm going to go, go to the park, or I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to focus on the positive. I'm going to do things that are positive. I'm going to smile at everybody I see. And fear, get lost. And if you keep doing that, yes, it will get you to the point that it, gets tougher and tougher, but you will succeed. Just keep working on it. Don't let it scare you. Don't let it get you on the run. Don't let it get you frightened to where now you're going to run from it. Don't let it get you into the, oh no, what am I going to do? Because that's fearful. And then the fear is pushing you.
I think that makes me act erratically. I mean, ever since I tried very hard, I got car accident. I got like a 2 moving violation ticket that maybe almost I'll be suspended license. And I mean, never had that before. I mean, this is beyond me. I mean, why am I acting so erratically when I was fine before? So I thought this is not me.
Yeah, keep being fine. Keep doing things that are right. Focus on doing the right thing at the right time. Focus on being happy. Focus on positive things. Do things that make you feel good. Don't think about the fear. Don't feel the ugliness of the fear. Don't let the fear get you on the run, because once it does, then you've lost that battle. So you push back.
Okay, thank you.
Easy to say, hard to do. I know.
I don't even know how to do it anymore.
It's very hard to do.
Yes, thank you.
Very hard to do, but maybe you can find somebody who'll help you. Somebody that when that fear starts to push, that you can grab hold of and get some positive words. Somebody to cheer you on, you know, sort of a cheerleader out as you get to the finish line, and the cheerleader jumps up and down and says, "You can make it, you can make it." Somebody that helps, maybe a really good friend or a significant other, or somebody that you can share that with, might be helpful.
Those accidents, those are radical action. This is all fear did that to me then?
Yeah, fear does that to you. It drives you, and then you do things fear is irrational. And once the fear gets hold of you, you start behaving irrationally.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thanks for telling me this. I was so, thank you.
Yeah, you're fine. You're a good person.
Elizabeth, I'm going to put you on the spot again.
Okay, thank you, Donna. This is also a question from another person, Tom, but I'm also very interested. My younger sister really enjoys her sense of humor and personality, as do we. You speak often on how it is our quality of consciousness that passes on from experience packet to experience packet, life to life. What she would like to know is this, quote, "Is it my IUOC that has this personality and this sense of humor, or did it choose to play this personality in this sense in particular? Is my IUOC this awesome, or is it just me this time around? Am I going to continue to be this way the next time around?" She continues, "One of my greatest joys in life is amusement. Things that just give you a good chuckle or a good bounce in your step. Being kind of in a good mood because it's sustainable as opposed to big highs or big lows." She then asks, "Have I learned enough that this love of amusement is great, or maybe I haven't learned enough and that is why I think amusement is great? Is this love of amusement indicative of an IUOC that is getting things right? Also, might you please more deeply explain what you mean by quality of consciousness and how this could play into this experience package personality?"
Okay. Your personality comes from really two things. One is the fundamental thing, and that's just your consciousness. Yes, your IUOC. That sense of humor belongs to your IUOC. That cheerful bump in your step belongs to your IUOC. This is the fundamental you at the consciousness level. Now, you come in with a certain quality of consciousness, and a higher quality of consciousness comes in with a proclivity of being cheerful and positive and happy and laughs a lot, has fun and joy. That's a sign of a good quality of consciousness. But now that has to interact once you get here in this experience packet. That has to interact with your environment and with your experiences. And if your experiences support that, well, then the IUOC just gets to express it. But if the experience doesn't support that, if your experience tends to beat you down or tends to be negative, then you still have that proclivity. You just don't have a space in which to express it. So the proclivity to be joyful, to have a spring in your step, to laugh and have humor, that comes natural. That's the IUOC. Whether or not you get a chance to express that in your life has to do partly with your environment. Does your environment such that it's easy to express those things? In other words, let's say you're around other people who smile a lot and who love you and who care about you, and your life is pretty good and things are going well. Well, then that encourages you to be bouncy and happy and full of fun. If your life was one that was really difficult, a life that, you had to work, 18 hours a day just to make ends meet, things were really, really hard, then you probably wouldn't be bouncing and laughing quite as much, but it would still be inside you. It'd still be your proclivity. You just wouldn't have a situation that kind of allowed you to express it. And you would be this kind of bubbly person inside, but this very serious, overworked, tired person on the outside. So it's both. You have both what you come in with plus what your environment helps you express or helps you not express things. But yes, in core, it's you, the consciousness. Those kinds of things don't go with the rule set. Now, the rule set has some of its own proclivities, and we call that, DNA, has some of its own genetics where you have proclivities to be certain ways and to have certain attitudes. Certainly you can get that genetically as well, but it's the same thing. It gives you a proclivity towards certain kinds of behaviors or feelings or attitudes, but your environment then develops the context in which you express them. So that context could be helpful in expressing, being bubbly, or it could be one that kind of suppresses the bubbly side of you. So those are two things. It's in your consciousness, and some of it is genetic. Even attitudes have genetic causes sometimes, even attitudes. So the genes will set us up for all sorts of things, but it doesn't lock us into those things. Our genes are not it's not a prison. It's not like, oh no, I got these, this bad genetics, nothing I can do about it. I'm locked into this awful state of being because my great grandmother, she does this and that, and it runs in a family, so I have to be like that. It's not like that at all. The genes don't lock you in, but they do start you out with certain proclivities, attitudes, feelings, and sometimes even understandings. It comes with genes, but you can change most of that. You can overcome most of that. Now, sometimes, the genes are not so easily overcome. Sometimes you'll get a genetic for a particular, marker for a particular disease or something like that. And that's a little harder. That's a tighter connection to the rule set. But mostly things that are attitudinal, like being bubbly or not, however your genetics are, you can modify them or add to them. So you got two sources of stuff you come in with. You come in with genetic stuff, and you come in with consciousness, accumulated learning through consciousness. And you have both of those things you come in with that you have to then deal with and learn how you're going to express them within the environment of your experience packet. Does that help?
That's perfect. She's going to be very pleased, and I'm also pleased. Thank you.
Vanessa, please go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, not you. Okay, great. I just wanted to share with Kim. I'm not sure if you're getting the chat, but Kim, I really appreciate how vulnerable you are in sharing. Yeah, and there's so many people here that are wanting to be there and connect with you. So feel free to reach out anytime, because I'd love to connect with you too. So if you check out the chat, I put my contact info in there, and I think there's a few others. And then, so yeah, so many great conversations going on today. I love what Teen was saying about connecting, having empathy and more compassion. And then Tom, how you talked about we often see the world through ourselves and I've been doing that a lot, just seeing the world through myself and comparing everybody to me. I now, when you talk about how their evolved people become invisible to you and you don't really see them for who they are, that's been happening my whole life. And I just recognized recently with somebody who came into my life, a man who came into my life. In the beginning, I judged him so much and I made fun of him, and I'm like, you drive a 20-year-old car, and like, look at how you dress, and totally made fun of him, and it was all my ego. But as I got to know him and I'm learning and observing and like checking my ego, I'm seeing that he's like a really kind person. And if he's late or something, he's like, oh, sorry, I was late. I was helping my elderly neighbor out with their garbage. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's just a very, very kind person. But it took time to check my ego and see see him for who he really is. And now I'm able to learn a lot from him. So I don't have to bug you as much, Tom, because I have somebody else I can learn from. So you should be thanking him. But with that, what I've recognized, I'm in a relationship with him now, and it's very healthy. It's going on like 10 months, so that's exciting. But what I'm recognizing is where I was once very codependent, which showed up for me in romantic relationships, always wanting, so codependency is, depending on somebody else to make me feel good about who I am, wanting their love and affection and approval in order to feel whole and complete. So I'm not doing that anymore because I don't need that from him, or he doesn't. Yeah, it's just not toxic. So I don't have that in my romantic relationship, but I'm recognizing it's coming up in my work relationships, where I'm now wanting approval from like my boss, and I'm like, see, I did a good job. Look what I did. And I'm always trying to seek that validation. Like that fear didn't go away. It's still there. It's just showing up now in a different realm of my life. So I guess the question then is, how do I stop seeking approval outside of myself and really just learn to validate my own self?
Well, Vanessa, when you have a fear, you express that fear through all different sorts of your, of your life. You don't just, the fear doesn't just express itself in your romantic relationships. That fear expresses itself in all your relationships, your work relationships as well. The fear is an equal opportunity annoyer. It causes trouble everywhere, not just in your romantic life. But the fact that you got one of them pretty well beaten, okay? You don't have that personal need for your significant other, to validate you. Well, all right, then you've beaten that fear back in that particular area. Now you're going to have to do the same kind of work that you did in the relationship with your relationships with the people you work with. Relationships are relationships, whether it's at work or romantic or whatever. You're going to have to gain that sense of confidence that you're okay just the way you are. That's called being authentic. I am who I am, and that's okay. I'm all right with that. I don't need anything from the outside to tell me I'm okay. I'm all right. Now, if other people disagree with me, that's okay, because other people are the way they are, and that's all right too. You see, so it'll take time, but once you beat one, it's so much easier to beat it again in a different area. So this first one was the tough one. I suspect this thing at work will probably resolve itself much more quickly and easily than the one with the significant relationship. So you'll probably get that under control in the short term, because you're aware of it, you see it, you see how that's that same thing that you've been doing is affecting every aspect of your life, and probably always has for as long back as you can see. And then you can see all the dysfunction and poor choices that you've made all along in your life just because of that fear. Well, you don't want to make any more of those. You don't want to alienate people at work. You don't want to do these kinds of things. So you'll learn. It's coming. You've got it. I think you won't have a hard time getting rid of it in other parts of your life now that you understand it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Cheryl, jump in there.
There, am I here?
Yes, you're here.
Hi, Tom.
Hello, Cheryl.
I already said hi to you once, didn't I?
I know.
I said it again. Did you know I love you more than frogs and rocks?
It's good to know, Cheryl.
Oh, right quick. I wanted to say to the sweet lady, Kim, that just spoke to you. I was up against, well, I still am, but I had some big fears like that. And as I got closer, it got bigger, and I was able to talk to Tom, and he explained that to me is as you get right up to it, it gets really big and it feels really bad, but you're right there about to push through it. And that one piece right there, I've experienced that, and it was very intense, but it does go away once you get past it. And the question I have is, I'm curious about, we each come in with so much fear and so much love and so much intellect and, you know, so much of all these things. And as we come into this experience, then we have other experiences growing up as children with that quality. So if we have like a lot of traumatic things happen, is that just the expression of that intense fear that you have in physical reality? Is it just expressing itself? Or are those just random events that make it worse?
Well, it's both. It's your fear expressing itself, which is why you interpret those random events as horrible things. But there are random events, but you get to interpret those random events and what they mean to you. And if you have a fear, then you tend to interpret those random events as part of your fear. You bring them into your fear. Oh, somebody, was, gave you a put down or something like that. Well, okay, that was just what that person did. But if you're fearful, you interpret that as, oh, I'm unworthy. I didn't do it well enough. I never do it well enough. It's my problem. Whereas if you don't have that fear, you say, gee, I wonder what their problem was. How come they were finding, how come they were having such a negative reaction to what I say? You see, in one, the fear makes you blame yourself. You feel inadequate. The other one, you don't. So yes, there's lots of random things that happen, but you get to interpret what they mean to you. And the fear will cause you to interpret them in a way that justifies the fear. So that means the fear gets bigger. Then you have to undo all that stuff later when you outgrow it, right? You got to tear all that stuff down that you built up.
Yes, Tom. The last 4 months have been very tumultuous. I can't say the right word.
Tumultuous. Yeah.
Yes, that one. And then I thought it was the reason I was having such a hard time was for other reasons. But then as I dug a little bit, I found the reason, and I was driving home, and all of it just flashed into my mind. It's something I didn't remember, but then it all flashed into my mind, and then everything made sense. And it's a core fear, and it's connected to all the other ones. And the last 4 months was, I just didn't know if I was going to make it or not. This last week, I've been doing a little bit better. I've kind of pieced together what was going on. But that's kind of why I wanted to know, because the event that happened, I was under anesthetic as a child, and I think I remembered the after effects of it. I remember being in the hospital, but I didn't remember the event at all. And so when I finally did remember the event, then all of it just made perfect sense. But I still just have this sense of just, it's so big, and it's much bigger than the other ones, I think, in some ways. But I know as I work through it, it'll get better, and I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's often the case. You get rid of one fear and then you find another one. But the good news is each successive fear that you are able to get rid of makes the next one easier. You see it faster and you're more capable of getting rid of it. So it does get easier. But mostly fears are piled on in a stack. It's not just a fear down there. Usually you start with a fear, and that fear creates more fears. And then those fears each create more fears. And the fears just multiply like rabbits, right? Even if you just started with one fear that was, let's say you felt inadequate, or you didn't feel lovable, or you didn't feel accepted, whatever it is. And then that fear will build up other fears, which build up other fears. And you get this whole stack of cards with this huge amount of fear. But as you work your way down through the stack, they do get closer to the roots. They get tougher and tougher, but it gets easier and easier to deal with them. So you're doing good, Cheryl. Just keep it up.
Oh, Lord. I'm going to work through this.
Good.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rudy.
So I was told recently by a friend about it's a credible story that a guru who was nearing his death found a way to kind of circumvent the whole reincarnation process. And I thought that was very interesting. So what he did was that he found a follower who, well, he meditated for 3 days straight and transferred his consciousness, so what I would say, to this other's body. And after those 3 days, this follower, this person, was completely changed, basically became this guru. So I thought that was a very interesting story, because I never heard about that method to kind of get around the whole reincarnation thing. And I think I was trying to get a sense of why he would do that. And I have a theory, and that is that it seemed like that this guru's followers was quite dependent on him. Like he had kind of made a lot of choices on their behalf, and they wouldn't be so great for them to lose their guru suddenly. So my sense of it was that he maybe wanted to change direction and try to like wean them off, kind of following just his advice fully. And then in that way he could kind of circumvent the reincarnation process. But that's just like a theory. Just want to hear your take on it, if you had heard about that kind of
I have
method.
never heard about that sort of thing, but just accepting it at face value sounds like Return of the Body Snatchers to me. The guru goes out and snatches somebody else's body to keep himself and his mind and his understanding intact. I find that really hard to imagine why he would do that. I heard your guess, but that's not too convincing that anyone would do that. Basically, one of the lessons I learned is that if you have a group of people who are dependent upon you, sometimes the best thing to do is move on and let them fend for themselves. There's a lot of lessons in having to fend from yourself when somebody else has been basically holding your free will by its hand, to make all of its choices. That's not good for people. It's better to let people make their own choices in their own way. Better for them to have to go out into the world and live life without their guru telling them what to do. would probably be something. And besides, taking over another, that way you're displacing somebody else's free will. And even if that person gave you carte blanche and says, oh yes, please, you know, take my body, not a good thing to do. That person is here learning with their free will, something that they would, you know, something they've been doing. They're responsible for that. And I would say that, again, taking that at face value, that it happens just like that, I would think that it was a very bad choice for the guru to make that choice. So I would tend to think that if the guru really was that grown up, he wouldn't make that choice. And that maybe this other person on the guru's death just became more enlightened because he understood more about death and other things, and maybe, you know, didn't actually happen the way they said. But if it did, it just hits me wrong. Was not a good choice, not a good thing to do. Well, I think Titi was up next.
Here I am.
Here you are.
I was in the chat. Yeah. Oh, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Tom, for this session. I mean, I have learned so much about fears, the nature of fear, and it's been so helpful to understand more, especially about all these layers and how they expand, and how when you dig into them, they seem to be more and bigger, and you sort of feel that you want to give up. But it's so helpful to understand more details about how they function and what they are. So that encourage us to work further on them, I think. So thank you. Yeah. And from one subject to another, you, Donna, asked if I would like to share some information about the volunteer organization. And I would be happy to do that. We are a team of people. Vanessa is there, and a lot of other people that you surely know about. We have been working quite intensively with the building up the volunteer organization during the spring. So we are actually about to get started with a new recruitment. So we are preparing some more details now, but I think pretty soon you will hear from us, and we will announce or launch the recruitment. And what we are aiming for is actually to have a lot of people into the timestamping project, because has the highest priority right now. So we will collect a lot of people into that. But in parallel, we will also run another project, which we call the Brand and Identity Project, which is about developing a graphical profile and also a tone of voice for the MBT community. So that will run in parallel. And once we have all this going and we have reached a little bit further, we will start a lot of different projects which will be all about creating material like videos, online courses, and so forth. So we are sort of building the platform now, and then we will continue with more material after that.
Yep. Titi,
So,
there is another thing. I don't know if your group has this or not, but it just occurs to me. One thing that your group might do is that so many of my videos are very long. You know, they're 5 1.5 hour pieces, you know, things like that. That's very intimidating. If somebody could go through those videos and just pull out the gold nuggets, pull out the things that, oh yeah, that's really important. You know, it's not part of a much bigger story. It's just can be a standalone thing that's important. And if we could pull those little standalone nuggets out, so that instead of having, you know, 1,000 hours all in 1.5 hour chunks, we also had a few hundred things that were 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you know, 3 minutes, a whole bunch of little things so that when the people first get to the site, they're not hit with this, oh, you know, everything's over an hour long. I can't even start, you know, I'm intimidated by that. There'd be a big selection of short little videos that were just little pieces taken out that, you know, we've talked about that for a while, but it just, since you have the MBT volunteer group and you and Vanessa, then that would be something that would be worth doing, is producing a large number of shorts out of the stuff that's already there, if you can find it. So that wouldn't take a lot of labor, but it would take somebody to go listen or go watch those things, looking for the nuggets in the shorts, something they could put out that I'd say 20 minutes or less. Better, more like 10 or 15 minutes would be good, if you can find anything like that. You know, I'm infamous for not being able to answer a question in less than a half an hour. So you may not find anything that's, you know, 10 or 15 minutes long, but if you can, or you could edit it down, you know, that's fine.
And it would need to be very clear though, Tom, if they did, what question you were answering in the title,
sure,
because
sure.
Otherwise all you're going to do is add more confusion.
Well, yeah, well, they would only pick things that would work by them. You know, it has to be a standalone, something that all by itself, it's a little nugget that we could share. So I don't know really how many of those we'll find. It may be that my talkativeness and my long answers make that impossible, but perhaps we could edit out some nuggets out of that and offer them to people so they'd have an entree to MBT that wasn't so intimidating as an hour's worth of video. Because a person will sit there and read 10-minute videos, and they've got 100 minutes in already, but they will never start an hour and a half video, which is 90 minutes. They just never be able to push the play button on that. So it'd be nice if we could get something like that. Anyway, thank you so much.
We love this work.
Tom Campbell here. MBT Events hope you liked this video. We now have well over 1,000 hours of free video on this user-friendly, ad-free YouTube channel. Though these videos are free to our viewers, they represent many thousands of hours in production and editing, and many thousands of dollars invested in video and audio equipment, along with the required computers and software to store and process the raw video into finished products. So far, all of this content has been funded directly out of our own pockets. Be assured, we will always continue to do what we can. It's our life, our purpose, a labor of love that we will continue to pursue as best we can. However, those pockets are not as deep as they used to be. Thus, we are now seeking to augment our resources with support from our viewers. If you find something of significant value in our videos, please consider supporting their production through our Patreon account or through a one-time donation. The links are in the description below. Thank you.